Chicago White Sox came into the 2023 MLB season with aspirations of contending in the AL Central and being a team fighting for a wild card or a playoff spot if they win the division. Well, 39 games through the year, the White Sox are 13 and 26, 8.5 games back of the first place team. So clearly, everything is not going to plan. You may be asking what could have caused this. Well, the White Sox were hit heavily with the injury bug, from where Yoan Moncada and Tim Anderson were both out. While those two were out, Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez had to handle the offense and had to be the leaders of it. Well, they weren't really up to the task, as Luis Robert was batting .216, and Eloy Jimenez was only batting .226, and the offensive production was not there. They were not in the top of the team of home runs or RBIs. Those were Andrew Vaughn and Jake Burger. Those were the guys that the White Sox were leaning on. So, what has happened since the return of Tim Anderson to the lineup? Well, Luis Robert raised his average to .261, but has gotten cold a little bit, so now his average is .254. While Eloy Jimenez, who unfortunately is now placed on the IL due to an injury that had him hospitalized on Saturday. His average was .226, which was raised then to .258 since the return of Tim Anderson, but since he went on the shelf, now that's another injury that the White Sox have to now replace. So, do the White Sox really have anybody to replace him? Not really. They don't have a farm system that they can go and just pick anybody out of. The farm system they have now kind of sucks. It's not as good as they once was when they had a bunch of people they were able to trade for like a Lance Lynn and stuff. But now you talk about the pitching staff. Lance Lynn, the whole pitching staff has been awful besides one bright spot. Lucas Giolito, who has a 3.59 ERA with a 1.11 whip. He also has 5 quality starts underneath his belt. While he has been the only bright spot for the White Sox rotation, which he wasn't last year, so this was kind of a shocker to see him return to kind of his ace form. Michael Kopech, Lance Lynn have both sport an ERA above 5 and a whip of above 1.4. Clearly, these two are having their struggles, and they need to get them fixed if the White Sox have any chance of contending in the AL Central. If the White Sox are able to get their pitching staff fixed, I think their offense is going to be fine enough to where they will be able to stay them in games and be able to win. But you look at their ace, Dylan Cease, is a pitcher that was second place last year in the AL Cy Young voting. Now he sports an ERA of 5.58 with a whip of 1.51. He clearly isn't his normal self. He needs to get right back on track in order for the White Sox to really contend. If they don't have that ace who clearly is a Cy Young contender, they're not going to be able to really top themselves into the echelon of teams because their offense may not be able to carry them in some games. In the playoffs, when you're needing 3 games to win, if you have 3 pitchers that can give you 7+ innings and keep you in the ball game while your offense is struggling, that's going to help you win all those games. And especially if a fourth one, if you have that 4th or 5th starter that can actually go on that day and do well, your team's going to be fine. But clearly the White Sox pitching staff is just not there this year, where last year it kind of was, but you can just tell this team is getting old and it's getting hurt by the lack of farm system that they do have. Now the farm system, they don't have really that many top prospects. They have Yoenis Cespedes' little brother, who hopefully can come up eventually and do well, but just the farm system they have isn't great. It's not going to be able to continue to have them have contending teams in the future. Obviously, if they continue to do bad, they're going to have a great draft pick, but how long is that going to take for those prospects to get better? We don't know. This team was in a win-now mode, and now clearly that win-now mode is either past or the players they have gotten for that win-now mode have gotten to the point where they're aging and getting bad to where they can't afford to have to go through another rebuild. Lance Lynn no longer has trade value, it seems. Michael Kopech has not panned out. He might need to make a move to the bullpen. You look at these guys and just wonder what really went wrong and how did it happen like this. The White Sox were building something great, but they just lost it. I think if they go into the draft this year, because they can draft some prospects this year, that is 100% sure. But will they pan out? We don't know. This team needs to make moves and fast, but who are they going to get if most of these players that they have aren't either producing, or if they are producing, they're too old to even get anything good out of them? Their leading dude for batting average is Yasmani Grandal. He's old and also on a huge contract. I don't think anybody's going to pay him. Jake Burger and Andrew Vaughn are 2 guys who were young enough to maybe be around by the next time they have another contending team. Like, Luis Robert is also there. Eloy Jimenez, those 2 are guys that are good, but are they going to be able to stay healthy enough to help contend with this team? Tim Anderson, he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. Yoan Moncada, is he even the right dude for this team? There's so many question marks that this team has. Are they going to be able to continue in building around these guys. I don't think so. I think they might just have to blow it up. I think they might have to move on from a guy like Yohan Moncada and Eloy Jimenez. Those two guys just clearly either can't stay healthy or just are not going to produce, and the contracts that they're going to be on are just not going to be team friendly. Tim Anderson, if they're not able to bring him back, well, then I guess hallelujah, they don't have him to worry about, but then you're going to lose your dude who's going to give you a good run production. So there's a lot of question marks that this team has, and I think they could get it answered, maybe by the trade deadline if they want to move on from some players, but what's the type of stuff they're going to get from aging veterans who clearly are not doing anything well? And maybe if Lucas Giolito is a trade piece they want to move on from, because he is also a free agent at the end of this year, they could probably get some pieces as well for him. But it's just a matter of time before the White Sox really have to tear it all down, or it might be too late and they won't have anything, and this team is about to be like the Oakland A's. I thank you all for watching. Please click that like button. Make sure